Imagine starting out with practically nothing and eventually ending up controlling massive chunks of an entire nation's infrastructure. Seriously, it's a narrative that genuinely sounds like it was scripted for a Hollywood thriller. Today, we're diving straight into an explainer on the wildly complex, absolute roller coaster journey of the Adani Empire. To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of this story, just think about this contrast for a second. We are talking about a guy who, at his absolute peak, actually eclipsed legendary titans of Indian industry like Ratan Tata and Mukesh Ambani. He hit the staggering milestone of becoming the second wealthiest person on the entire planet, packing a net worth of $154.7 billion. But then, a single explosive financial report drops, and suddenly his ranking plummets to the world's 21st richest, practically overnight. So how exactly does a colossal empire climb so high, only to shake that violently? Well, to understand the sudden fall, we have to hit rewind and go right back to the very beginning. Born in 1962 in Banaskantha, Gujarat, to a modest textile merchant, Gautam Adani's background was, honestly, completely ordinary. There was no massive trust fund waiting for him. Driven by this intense desire to escape poverty and break out of the limits of a fixed salary, he actually made a super bold choice. He dropped out of his university commerce degree in just his second year, packed up, and arrived in Mumbai with only a few rupees in his pocket. Those early days were built on incredibly grueling work, spending long hours polishing stones for Mahindra Brothers. But by 1981, he set up his own brokerage in Zavare Bazaar and earned a 10,000 rupee commission. That was his very first big win. Soon after that, he started importing PVC for his brother's plastic factory. And by capitalizing on India's 1991 economic liberalization, he masterfully grew the newly formed Adani Enterprises into a major global player in trading, metals, and textiles. Now, 1995 is where everything changes. This is the ultimate pivot. The chief minister of Gujarat at the time, Keshubhai Patel, was looking to develop private ports. Adani saw the opening, positioned himself perfectly, and somehow landed the massive tender to manage Gujarat's Mundra port. That single, calculated move shifted him from being a really successful trader into an absolute magnate of vital national infrastructure. And when we say port, you gotta forget about a couple of docks and some shipping containers. This thing became an absolute behemoth. Mundra Port is India's largest private port, spanning a mind-boggling 8,000 hectares. It's so vital to the country that it handles roughly a quarter of all the cargo moving in and out of India. Plus, it operates as a tax-free special economic zone, meaning it enjoys incredibly favorable trade laws. It is essentially its own self-sustaining ecosystem, complete with private rail lines, its own power plant, and yeah, even a private airport. He didn't just stop at Mundra either. He rapidly scaled up from that one massive opportunity and effectively conquered the Indian coastline. He established and managed 13 critical domestic ports across 7 different Indian states, securing vital hubs in places like Maharashtra and Kerala. He essentially became the undisputed king of India's commercial maritime gateway. But, extreme wealth often attracts extreme life-threatening danger. On New Year's Day in 1998, things took a horrific turn. After leaving the Karnavati Club in Ahmedabad with a friend, their car was forced off the road by a scooter, and they were ambushed and dragged into a van at gunpoint. Kidnapped by underworld elements, the attackers demanded a staggering ransom of 1.5 crore rupees. Adani survived the terrifying ordeal, drastically ramped up his security, but remarkably, he didn't let it slow his business ambitions down for a second. Actually, instead of stepping back out of fear, he expanded right into our homes. Through a 1999 joint venture with Wilmar, he jumped into the edible oils market, launching the wildly successful Fortune brand in 2000. Go check a typical Indian pantry today, and you are almost guaranteed to find their soybean or sunflower oil sitting there. By 2005, he partnered up with the Food Corporation of India to build these colossal railway-connected grain silos, completely modernizing how the entire nation stores its bulk food. Then, just as his empire was really stabilizing and branching out, he found himself staring down death all over again. On November 26, 2008, during the horrific Mumbai terror attacks, Adani was actually dining with the CEO of Dubai Ports at the Taj Hotel. As terrorists stormed the building, he literally saw them firing weapons near the pool and the elevators. He spent a terrifying night hidden away in a suffocating basement and later a secure chamber, while this devastating historic attack unfolded all around him. He was finally rescued by security forces at 8:45 the next morning. Once he was safely back in Ahmedabad, he gave this incredibly chilling statement that just perfectly captures the harrowing reality of that night. He simply said, "I saw death from 15 feet away." To look terrorism right in the eye from that distance and walk away is just unfathomable. Yet, much like the kidnapping a decade prior, this near-death experience seemed to put his global ambitions into hyperdrive. Surviving those massive traumas coincided with an absolute explosion in his wealth and his global reach. In 2002, his net worth sat at a very respectable $65 million. But by moving aggressively to secure vital global energy assets, like entering Indonesian coal mining in 2010 and snapping up Australia's Abbott Point coal terminal in 2011, his net worth absolutely skyrocketed. By 2014, he was sitting on an unbelievable $8 billion. The sheer scale of his global strategy really came into focus with that 2010 Indonesian acquisition. To make sure he could feed his enormous domestic power plants back home in India, he spent over 12,000 crore rupees to buy a sprawling mine from Link Energy. We are not talking about a small side operation here. This site holds 7.8 billion tons of mineral reserves and can crank out 60 million tons of coal every single year. You really start to see how much of the energy powering everyday life was flowing directly through his hands. So, after dominating the seas and locking down global energy, what's next? Well, in 2019, he decided to conquer the skies. He completely stunned the market by securing 50-year operation and development rights for 6 major Indian airports, including major hubs like Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Jaipur, Guwahati, and Thiruvananthapuram. Just like that, he became one of the most critical players in Indian aviation infrastructure overnight. And his dominance in the aviation sector became pretty much absolute. Taking over regional airports clearly wasn't enough, because he went ahead and secured a staggering 74% ownership stake in Mumbai International Airport Limited. Controlling nearly 3/4 of India's second-largest, incredibly lucrative airport totally cemented the Adani Group's grip on how people and goods move across the subcontinent. If you've flown through India recently, chances are you've been in Adani territory. All of this relentless, hyper-aggressive diversification across ports, power, defense, agriculture, and data centers led to a phenomenal, historic moment in 2022. He surged right past global luxury titan Bernard Arnault to become the second richest person in the entire world. With a net worth of $154.7 billion, he was sitting right behind only Elon Musk. The college dropout from Banaskanta had literally reached the absolute summit of global wealth. Now, it's really important to note that his financial milestones were paired with some massive philanthropic promises. On his 60th birthday, the Adani Foundation, which already reaches over 40 lakh people, pledged an astronomical 60,000 crore rupees. This immense sum was dedicated to health, education, and skill development across 16 different states, effectively promising to funnel a huge portion of that wealth right back into social causes. By this point, he'd built an empire that stood shoulder to shoulder with India's historic, multi-generational giants. The Adani Group officially became only the third Indian business house, right up there with the legendary Tata and Reliance Groups, to achieve a total combined company value, or market capitalization, of over $100 billion across its 7 listed companies. It felt like an era of completely unstoppable growth. But then, the floor completely falls out. The Hindenburg report drops. It was a sudden, unprecedented shockwave that hit the financial markets like an absolute earthquake. This highly critical short seller report, which alleged financial irregularities and stock manipulation, caused his company's shares to hit lower circuits. I mean, the stocks were dropping so incredibly fast that trading was automatically halted, day after day. It triggered a sweeping disruption, bringing his skyrocketing wealth crashing back down to earth, plunging his ranking to 21st in the world, and allowing Mukesh Ambani to reclaim the top spot in Asia. Which brings us to the massive question we're left with at the end of this explainer. Like gold tested in fire, Gautam Adani clearly has a proven track record of surviving the absolute worst that life can throw at him, from grinding poverty to terrifying gunpoint kidnappings to literal terrorist attacks. But how will this report permanently reshape his global empire? Can the ultimate survivor actually bounce back from an unprecedented financial ambush?